over a little bit about the learning curve, what it means, how it works, and how do we get from learning something new to a better position, a more optimum position of incorporating new information at a human's pace. So, in our current system of education, as you seen my post last night, there is a concerted effort to dumb us down. If they know how to dumb us down, then they know how to prop us up mentally. They know how to exalt us educationally, right? So once you know how the mind works and you know what the mind does when it files information, it gives you a better understanding of how the mind can be programmed. So I'm going to do a couple more invites here and we're going to get off into the proceedings this evening. People love, to do stuff for the children. So the education should incorporate a couple of things. Parents now are taught to teach their children how to be oppressed. Now, that don't even sound like some shit we ought to be teaching our kid, but we don't know we teach it to them. So we teach our children how to be oppressed. In order to successfully be oppressed, you need to ignore the oppressor. You need to ignore the oppression. And anyone who comes to try to break the condition, you must rebel against that motherfucker before he wake your ass up. Right? Hey, Carolyn. So, the mind is the same format as a computer in 3 parts. Short-term memory. Short-term memory in a computer is called RAM, RAM. And the RAM's job is to temporarily hold the file until it can be stored successfully in the hard drive. The more short-term memory you have, the more you can hold at the forefront of the mind before you push it into the filing system in the hard drive. What we call our hard drive is the subconscious mind, where it stores the data. The subconscious mind can only hold so much information, and then it takes you into what they call the universal stream of consciousness, where all of the masters' minds go. Right, so we sit here, we tell our kids we don't teach them nothing at home. We let them learn everything at school, and we don't do no follow-up at home, and we think that that's it. We did our part. We sent them to school this morning. Sending them into a cattle learning system, that's not normal. The four-wall method of learning, you can study about it with Dr. Neely Fuller's Breaking the Chains of White Supremacy, the United Independent Compensatory Code. The four walls method is designed that way so while the learning process is taking place, the sight, the actual three-dimensional visual sight is limited to the four walls in the room. If you start looking at schools now, you'll notice that they're starting to black the windows out. They're starting to black the windows out because children's minds naturally gravitate toward the open space of outside. This is where the mind of the child naturally, especially before they're like 8. So I got a message this morning that let me know what my video should be about. Somebody asked me for some educational tips for a 10 to 12-year-old young girl. Well, Anybody that got a child 8 to 12, take one summer and get them a speed reading class between 8 to 12. When they go through that class, they're going to learn speed reading. It normally takes about 3 months to get it down pat where you are a successful speed reader, right? Now, why do you teach them speed reading? Look-see reading slows the brain down. When you read 1 or 2 words at a time, you have to wait for the brain to process the words individually. Well, speed reading does something to the mind. It creates what you call a panoramic view of the page. And what that means is, instead of just taking the words that's on the paper, the brain in speed reading paint the whole picture that the page is describing in a matter of the same amount of time that it took them to read 1 word. This allows them several things. This allows them to create a larger RAM, short-term memory, a more organized hard drive, long-term memory, and once the short-term memory and the long-term memory are both working in what you call an optimum fashion, then the brain begins to feed off information that it can't get in the 3D. We call it fourth dimensional resonance, or we call it the superconscious mind. Before they trap the spirit beings in the physical bodies with the science, the fourth dimension is where we kept what you call Akashic records, and we had access to them mentally from here. The physical, but you're not what you've been told you are. You are not a body first, you see. You existed before this body, and you're going to exist when the body is gone. The body allows you to experience a third dimensional fixed position reality in a form that's conducive to the reality you live in. The problem happens is when you lose sight of who you are in elementary. Now, the speed reading techniques are various. Evelyn Woods is the older version. Howard Berg is a newer version, and there's many in the middle. And there's some even newer than Howard Berg now, because he's been out over 20 years. But he's one of the best. We all heard this guy, Kevin Trudeau, cures your doctor don't want you to know about, more cures and stuff like this. But back in the 80s, he used to air infomercials and promote products for Mensa. Mensa is a organization of geniuses that get all drafted into this place, and they all help each other succeed in life without having all they shit took by the system. So it had to be a smart motherfucker to start that. Okay, so now, once they got speed reading down, one summer before they go into junior high, get between 8 and 12, get them speed reading class for that summer. That one summer of speed reading is going to be equivalent of 8 years of education. Now, what do they do once they learn the speed reading? You get them a comprehensive dictionary of the English language if you speak English. If your first language is French or Spanish or Arabic, whatever it is, once they got the speed reading part down, they don't need nobody telling them what to think. They're learning how to think in this manner. They need to know what all of the words in the language they speak. You give them the dictionary on the weekends if they don't have homework. We're trying to get out of this four walls education method anyway. But if they don't have homework, their homework would be to read the dictionary. You know, And then as they get better at speed reading, they'll be able to run through a 2,000 page dictionary in about 45 minutes to an hour. But you want them to read the dictionary of the language at least 7 times as soon as possible once they have adjusted their or has assimilated their speed reading. The practice book should be the dictionary because the words and the understanding of the words, context, and usage is more important than learning correct spelling. You can correct the spelling, but once they get it in their brain, they're going to all be spelling bee caliber spellers anyway because all of the words are there. The dictionary begins each definition with the word, addiction. This is why it's called a dictionary. A diction key, how the word is pronounced, and then a descriptive explanation of what the word means. Now, one of the things that I found kind of odd was I found out when I first started teaching myself how to read that if a person doesn't know what a word means and he go look it up, he end up finding out what another word means because it's a word in the definition he don't know. This is called chain referencing, something like they do in Bible study with the Thompson chain reference. They study word for word, this word lead to that word, to that word, to that word in the book. So you look this word up, it's a word in definition you don't know, you look that word, familiar you spit. But by giving them the tools early, right, they got the speed reading and their minds can expand now. Now they need what formula? The formula is the words. So that's why you get them the dictionary. The one I got is called the Webster's Unabridged Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English Language. Is about 4.5 inches thick, if not 6. So I read that. I've been reading that book for years. Only thing I've been reading, other book I read that long, is the Bible because my mom had me reading the Bible. And so once I go through there, we get the speed reading down, we get the dictionary down, what's next? You get them a book of mathematical formulas to study. Tell them don't try to remember it. When the pale people kicked their ass out, they doubled back on their ass because they was slicker than grease. So now they all in Switzerland. Well, they was in Switzerland, hiding out, financing all of the wars on both sides. Yep, the Sibyls. Yep, those girls wasn't no joke. And you know, from the teachings of the Sibyls is where the Candace Queens and those other warrior queen tribes from the Middle Eastern region, where all they come from, they all was pretty much like splinter groups from the Sibyls. The Sibyls was disrupted. Let me tell y'all the story of the Sibyls. This what happened to the Sibyl priests. When they came here, the Sibyl priestesses was the wives of the Pharaoh. And they were, they didn't just sit around and put on makeup all day. They did shit. And so what happened was the invaders came and sent imposter bitches, them riding crotch bitches up in there, and they got close to what they call the hive queen, bust that bitch in the head. And then they went and did a broken mirror spell on a crossroad, right? And the broken mirror spell was the spell to break up the sisterhood of the Sibyls, right? They were a different sisterhood than the Gorgons who set up Greece. And but that's what happened to the Sibyls. That funky crotch, rotten crotch, bust down chick throwing conjure spells has kept the Sibyl queens from reforming because nobody would make that slut close the conjure. So part of the work was I made her close that motherfucking conjure. So she closed that motherfucker. Because I wasn't going to stop pounding her motherfucking emotional chakras, her heart chakra and her throat chakra and her brain chakra, till she motherfucking reversed the goddamn conjure. Because the same motherfucker that did the conjure is the same motherfucker got to undo it. When I was found the priestess from Haiti, I thought I was done. I wasn't done. I had to find two sons. Now I got to find Bookman. But one of the people on here already know who the Bookman is reincarnated. I just haven't did the analysis yet, but I'm going to be doing it over this week because I got to know the basic understanding of how to find the Bookman in this era. Shit, that motherfucker might be me. The way shit look. I hope it ain't, because I'm tired of being every motherfucker I don't want to be. If I start coughing, it's not a cold. It's the chronics. Just so y'all know. Smoking that icky or the sticky. Somebody had requested to join, where they must have unsubscribed. So back to Garvey. Wait a minute, let me see what else in here. Wakanda is Haiti. Actually, Haiti and Dominican Republic. And that's Wakanda. And what they call in Wakanda, they call it, I forgot the name of the metal. But that shit is in Haiti. It's the same shit. Right. Why don't bitch ass Sinetta don't lock in with you? They don't want truth. They want money. I never had a conversation with Sinetta. I never watched none of his stuff either. I just was never. That wasn't my direction to study. So I don't know nothing about them dudes. So if I tell you what they want, then I'm just lying because I don't know shit about them because I'll never watch them. The only one I know of is General Seti, who Young Pharaoh used to be with, and he the fucking truth. So rest of them cats, I don't really know nothing about them like that. Yeah, so you mentioned Mary Scott, who, when they say Mary, they got y'all thinking that they always referring to somebody's name. And they not always referring to the name. When they be saying Mary, they be calling them a rebellious woman because they don't want to go along to get along with the bullshit. So they name them Mary, or they call them Mary. And now, when the children being born and they naming girls Mary, she already born with that fire to overthrow the old system, because she in her psyche and her subconscious mind, if she ever been here before, she know they making fun of her by calling her Mary. But we think that that's a good name to have because somebody named Jesus had a mama named Mary, which was a mockery. Remember, it was more than one Mary. And they called all of the women around him Mary because they was the rebellious ass to the system. They was your Asada Shakurs of the day, your Angela Davises, your motherfucking Afeni Shakurs, your motherfucking Maxine Waters. Those were the ones that they was calling Marys or Miriam. And this was the reason why a lot of people don't have a proper understanding of what the text is saying. Because when you read it in the Greek and you take the J out of the discussion, you got a whole different story. Because it's telling you a story about somebody ISIS. Now they try to make it say Jesus or Yazus. That's not what it say in Greek. In Greek, it's IESOUS. It's ISIS. So when you're reading the story about ISIS, and every time they telling you about her as a mother, they calling her Mary, because they said she gave birth to her son without the aid of the man, so that he can have both the mitochondrial right of the women and the Y chromosome right of the males to rule. All he got to do is be on a straight bump. And then the one that raised him, who in this case we talking about Nenegajita, who was raised by Enki as his father. But the story, y'all know the story best as the story of Loki, the son of the Ice Princess, who was adopted by the old man, and his half-brother Thor, who was the old man's actual son, had usurped him for the throne. In this case, the old man's son who's masquerading as Thor is actually his brother masquerading as his son in the story. Because Thor is trying to take the place of Shango in the pantheon, and so he wielded the hammer. The hammer, if you go back to Ragnarok, the opening scene, you will see who the real pure one is, and they call her name Lilith. I'm just saying, I didn't make that shit up. Okay, let me do this. Always at the bottom, and as I read these questions. When this live in, Christine, I'm gonna call you, sweetie. There's variables to interpreting symbolism. So just because you've seen a white horse on the side of your house is insufficient data to really tell you what it means. All I could do is refer you to the general meaning of the white horse, which is conquer and conquest. Is genealogy necessary to reclaim the land? Yeah, you got to have the blood, because the blood is tied to the earth through mitochondria. And if you don't have the blood, you can't exercise the right to your status to reclaim the land. The Epic of the Atrahasis, were they referring to the God of Islam because he had brothers and sisters, but not a god, but a demigod. That his sacrifice for stop working the earth, he was sacrificed using his blood and bones, creating humans to finish the task. Yeah, so this in the Holy Tablets too, and it talks about the one who rebelled, and how they used his blood to create humans. The Lulu Amalu, the primitive worker. Now that was the first creation. This wasn't the genetic defect. This was Inky work, and the Anunnaki whose blood they used, they didn't actually murder him, but they actually used him as a stud to make children. But in the story, because he didn't want to enter and cohabit with the earth women, the sacrifice that he was making by being forced to copulate with them, the Anunnaki likened it unto death. So it was as if they murdered him. But his blood, let's look at the story of Genghis Khan and what percentage of the male population of the earth or the human population can trace back to him. The blood of Fatima is the blood of the righteous. And what they're talking about is the daughter of Muhammad, right? And that was one of his daughters. And so she was born, and she was righteous, and she was raised and taught hands-on by his wife Khadijah. And Mother Khadijah, in the reverse, was taught hands-on by Clara Muhammad, who represented the prophecies of Fatima that was given to the kids down in South America. And oh man, I like, but that's a compliment. But I don't look like him. What does the Japanese government shutting down mean? That's Anu land. It's not so much the government shutting down that you needed to be looking at. It was the layout of the room, because it's a temple. When you look at the layout is a very specific temple. And if you know what temple it is, then you halfway through the struggle of figuring out what's going on with Japan. Why did the Japanese government step down? Japan is not the only government to step down. You got something called the Big Quit taking place in America, and y'all don't even know the sheer number of senators and congressmen that's retiring. They just retiring, walking out the office and not coming back to work, but it's not hitting the mainstream media, so y'all don't know about it. You know, but you can look up how many senators and quit and congressmen didn't quit in the last 2 years, and your mind gonna fucking be blown. So it's heads of state all over the world stepping down. Governments as whole governments is falling apart because it's the close of the age. So at the close of the age, everybody got to pay for their dirt. And these governments did the dirt, and now they have to surrender the government to the mercy of the people. This is what you see. Well, if you had some specific questions, Grandmaster Bay, about the hoodoo and voodoo, we definitely could talk on it because I'm with the voodoo. Okay, now I think all my questions caught up. I got some more, some new ones. What's next? Do you think there'll be a civil war soon? There ain't no reason for no fucking war because the enemies surrendered when I kicked their ass. Right? So there's no reason for a civil war. I mean, if you have anything resembling a civil war, it's going to be us cleaning up after the motherfucking destruction of Mother Nature. That's probably going to be the civil unrest that you see in the Civil War. But in the grand scheme, there's no cause or no need for a civil war. This shit is over with. We finna put this shit the way it go and get out these sisters' way so they can go in here and clean this shit up. Get this earth back where it's supposed to be. No, I don't see no civil war coming. I see a bunch of scare tactics to keep you subjugated, though. Well, not only by using the different numerals that they changed the timeline, but they rewrite history by giving us a different history than actually happened, but something similar that we can relate it to, so that we can't know exactly what they was doing. And that's why Noble Drew Ali is important. That's why Marcus Garvey important. That's why Prince Hall important, because they the ones who's telling us, hey, these motherfuckers trying to keep y'all trapped in this motherfucking brain lock. Okay, listen, it's called, when you want to know why they, Lilith was a powerful woman. If you trying to subdue or suppress matriarchy, suppress the actual true power of women, it's the same thing that they did with us by painting all the guys pale. It's the same shit. When they tell you, well, they don't really like to talk about her. First of all, they don't want to talk about Lilith, and she was more like Adam babysitter with his dumb ass than she was like a wife. And she got tired of that dumbass box of rocks that she had to sit there and nurse so that these rotten ass motherfuckers won't start creating shit. And they got mad and had an argument. They kicked her out of the program. But she wasn't with that bullshit. Adam wasn't nothing but a big ass motherfucking autistic lump of mud to her. He was, horrible. No, African guys, Egyptian guys, the American guys, the Asian guys, the Australian guys, the original ancient ones was all the same guys with different cultural attachments. See, you looking at, now, what happened was two priesthoods went to war. The priest loyal to Enki and the priest loyal to Enlil. And they had a conjure war, and here we are kicking their ass in the Badussi about their conjure, weak ass conjure they had. They, thought that they was going to keep a motherfucker perpetually subjugated with that shit. It didn't work. And it's left, so take the mammary gland. Now pay attention. The kufi and the yarmulke is imitating the mammary gland. Do you understand why? Your George Jetson hats. They want to be sure that you pay attention to the spinner is the pasty. The yarmulke is the mammary gland. Because the wisdom is fed to the child from the mother. It is symbolic of them having the wisdom of the mother being absorbed as to suck it from the mammary gland, but it's upside down and backwards. I think you have to let that marinate for a minute. The yarmulke and the kufi mimic the areola on the mammary gland. That's why them bald-headed motherfuckers still wear them. That's not to cover their bald spot. The little button on it is the nipple, right? They exaggerated in George Jetson with the spinner wheel because they wanted to look like the pasty on the tassels on the dancer's breast to make sure you understand what you're looking at. But we got lost in the symbolism and we didn't pay the sign no attention. You dig? And so we predicate everything upon our religious faith, our political doctrine, social structures, and all of these things. But when the social structure is out of balance, all of the people become out of balance. What do you do when you're out of balance? You stagger. So we not walking through life, we staggering through life. Walking in the trance. That's why they call them zombies. The trance is the ignorance of the self, while the artificial ego that was created by external forces molded you into what you are. So now they're looking at you externally, right? And they got you looking on the outside of you to define what you are that can only be defined from the inside of you. So you have to define yourself internally. Now, as you grow older, you hear people talk about they have voices in your head. That's your ancestors. That's everybody that taught you lessons in your life. All that shit just going on at one time because you don't know how to still the mind. That's meditation. You so busy praying, running your goddamn mouth that you can't listen. You got to learn to listen the same way as you learn to talk. You didn't just come out talking English. You had to learn the language. You had to learn the facial expression to go with the word. You had to learn to speak in a certain manner with a certain diction over a period of time. It's the same way spiritually. You have to learn to communicate with yourself spiritually if you wanted that spiritual inner self to spill into the outer world. This is what we have to do. This is the connection that we get through the mother line in a matriarchal system. It's an automatic connection because the mother raises the children in a manner that would be different if he was raised. The father still got a primary role in the life of a child to take his child, especially a boy, and teach him how to be a man and show his daughters how a woman is supposed to be treated. If the father don't treat his daughter in a certain way with a certain reverence, when she go out in